Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed. We are, last time, Socrates wiped away the coming Armageddon with reason alone. Holy moly. And because of the work that we've been doing, we've been able to understand how he did that. And in this new way of reading that we've been learning, that uses the dialectic and raises our mind to meet the mind of the author, hopefully we too can master the use of reason and understanding to the point where we can contribute to stopping the upcoming Armageddon. Why Armageddon? Because our current society is ruled by those who are themselves ruled by belief. And belief, by definition, can only bring death and destruction. Because, by definition, it opposes reason, evidence, axioms, principles, understanding. All of those are elements of understanding. And therefore, the good, the true, and the one. Things that are apprehendable through understanding and directly through mind. And we reviewed our previous dialectic on this, and we did a little map last time. Here we see the stages of human development through, where's my pen? It's on the wrong screen. Okay, so the pen is fixed. So, rejecting understanding has two kinds of forms: strict dualism, materialism, atheism, reductionism. These are all ways of thinking that reject that there is any ability for us to participate in mind and self. Belief is the imitation of knowing. Someone appears to be a knower in a big fancy hat, or because you're stuck under their roof as a child, or you're dependent upon them in some way. Either way, these people seek positions where they can pretend to be a knower. That's belief. So those are the fourth and fifth stages: rejecting mind and pretending to be mind, but also necessary for belief, is in opposition to understanding. After all, if you understand something yourself, why would you believe someone else? So where's my pen? My pen, I think, needs to have its batteries replaced. I think I can do that right now. Hold, please. Okay. So the 5 hypotheses, or the 5 stages that our souls move through. Hey, there is no ability for us to participate in a higher mind. 5th hypothesis. Well, there is, but only within a group, bound by a clan belief. Now that's for every human being. That's your family clan belief. That's called the pathologos belief. Now that family clan belief is made use of by priests and imams and rabbis. And hey, notice that we've got a whole long list of people who all claim to speak the truth, none of which agree with each other. How can there be thousands of different rabbis, imams, ministers, priests, pastors, preachers, bishops, all saying different things, but all claiming to be infallible and true? That's because they're all fucked in the head. That's a bit harsh, but true. They're all imitating knowing. So, both of these we call ignorance. Belief, and of course, to oppose mind and self, you have to be carrying a belief yourself. So we can understand belief as the model and the activity from that model, opposition and rejection of understanding. While the third and second would be the model and activity of mind. The activity of mind, understanding, a special kind of understanding. That's not understanding the physical world, but understanding the cause of the physical world, the principles of the physical world. Beauty. You see that as an adjective in the physical world, but we want to know beauty itself. We want to know justice itself. We want to know whole, part, same, different itself. We want to know the truth. That's dianoia. So that would be the activity from the model of mind. Therefore, human ignorance opposes truth, because this realm is the realm of truth. It opposes oneness. You need to use your mind and understanding to bring things into a oneness. And it opposes goodness, because this is the experience of the good, and it's our use of understanding on our highest vision of reality that allows us to move to the first hypothesis, the self. So there it is. It's pretty simple, because we've gone through it a million times. 5 stages of development from the physical world into the realm of mind and through it to the realm of self. We can personify, we can tell a story about that journey, the hero's journey of the soul through the physical world to become one of the gods, and then ultimately the one God, the self. Know thyself. So last time we did a reflection on that to see how and why belief opposes truth, oneness, and goodness. By definition, in its definition, it is those ideas of oneness. It is a limitation, your limited belief, in opposition to freedom. You are a part of humanity and you're in opposition to the whole. So that's why when believers have a rulership, all they can do is harm and cause conflict. Whereas if you understand medicine, you can do good, you can help people. If you understand veterinary medicine, you can help animals. If you understand how to fly a plane, you can help people get to a different place. But if you just believe you know medicine, you can only hurt that animal. Whenever you start sawing away at the bones of that injured animal, you can only hurt them. If you only believe you can fly a plane, you will only crash the plane. The odds of you happening to chance your way onto flicking every right switch in the correct order is 100 bajillion to 1. You can only do harm with belief. So that's how it demonstrates itself. By definition, it is the cognitive function where you are the lesser. I am this limit. I am a Mormon, and I will only wear Mormon underpants that are magic because someone found a scroll under a rock that said you must wear magic Mormon underpants. So all of these building blocks of thinking, of reality, of understanding, everything you've ever seen is a whole and a part, is same as something, but is different in that it's a different thing, is either unlimited, like numbers are unlimited, you can keep counting, or is limited. This flamingo is limited by its boundary as one flamingo. So if you take all of these fundamental building blocks of thinking, of experience, of reality, and you recognize there is a greater and lesser, whole and part, you can understand belief as identifying with the lesser. We are this part. We are the chosen Jews. We are the chosen Protestants. We are the chosen whatever. And we have to have these limitations. We can't read Harry Potter because of the devil. Functioning in opposition to the greater, while understanding your state of mind is of the whole. A doctor knows the whole of medicine or the whole of the human body and functions beneficially towards the parts, towards people with limits, health issues. So understanding is have a state of mind of the whole and functioning providentially towards the parts. That's what we're here to do as human beings, to master understanding. How do we master the art of language and reflection, logos and ousia. But to do so, we have to overcome our beliefs. That's the human quest. Because while we can talk about religious beliefs or political beliefs or conservative beliefs or capitalist beliefs or racist beliefs, all these beliefs that are causing death and destruction in our planet towards our own species, they had to come from somewhere. Every single person gets their own imitation of knowing from their clan belief of their family clan, that they can go on to say, and it's not just my family team, it's MAGA, it's Nazis, it's Jesus, it's Abraham, it's etc., etc. Ways of pedestalizing or venerating your own personal beliefs. So, we can map the stages of ignorance to human ignorance. The cause of all human problems is belief, and it's an activity to oppose understanding. Our purpose, our excellence, is to move from belief into understanding, stage 3. Understanding can be used to purify our ignorance and perfect our excellence by reflecting on the model of understanding, mind itself. That comes along with an enlightenment experience of the whole of all parts. So that's how we can understand the brilliant light of being, or mind itself. And of course, what we're doing in the text is using understanding through the dialectic. That's spelled wrong. Through the dialectic to take Jesus from a glimpse of mind or nous into its cause, the self. Stage 1, knowing the self. Because even the whole of all parts has to have a cause. But whenever we are faced with a development through these 5 stages, we find a counter-attack from our family beliefs, if we haven't purified them yet. Therefore, we can map all human development and every person you meet on this map. What level of perfection of the dialectic, again spelled wrong, what level of perfection of logos, language, understanding, and ousia, their vision of mind, what's their highest vision on this axis? And what level of purification from their false beliefs from childhood about themselves and reality have they done? In other words, philosophical midwifery is the removal of those false limiting beliefs that are the cause of all human problems, death, destruction, suffering in every facet of reality, especially our relationships, our relationship to ourselves, but also our society. That's our pathologos, our beliefs. That function, they are a problem because they pretend to be knowing. Trump pretends to be a knower. Hitler pretends to be a knower. The priest, the pastor, the imam, the rabbi, all of these fucks pretend to be knowers. And it opposes actual development of knowing, which requires the courage and character to reflect. There's your ousia, self-reflection. That's what the word ousia means, to reflect on yourself. Requires the courage and character to reflect on yourself with understanding. You can't just believe your way out of a problem. You can't just believe your broken arm fixed. You have to go to someone who has the language of medicine, the understanding of medicine. That's called the logos. So our problems are problems because they prevent our development of the logos. So, are you here? Are you here? Is Socrates here? Is Jesus here somewhere? Pretty high vision, but hasn't done any work on removing his religious beliefs. So there's a simple graph explaining the purpose of human life. And of course, because the use of understanding is used to perfect the logos in reading. That's why we read on this channel. And to remove the blocks to your reading, it's a single art that does both. The art of the dialectic. So we talked about needing an art of medicine to help human bodies, or an art of flying a plane to help people to a different place. If you are a soul, if you're a human being, the art you're here to develop is the art of dialectic. All of this is from the book that we've been reading, but also we can verify for ourselves. So what? Well, so as we go through those 5 stages of development, those blocking beliefs function in also 5 stages. You hear something new, you read something new, you have a new experience or a new development, you reject it. Reject the new in order to keep your old beliefs. That's why we're in that's the human struggle. The human struggle is, if it was just as simple as learning, we would be fine. But human beings are opposed to learning. MAGA will vote for Donald Trump even though it's against every one of their own interests. People will allow billionaires and capitalism to exist even though it will destroy the planet and makes everyone's life a living hell, except for half a dozen people, or even they are in suffering of a different kind, but it only benefits a small handful of people. Why don't we change? Because anything new we reject because we're still cavemen. We are still at a stage of development where, from our caveman days, the humans that survived before we had logos, before we had language, before we could reflect with Usia, were the human beings who thought anything different from my tribe, anything different from my cave was bad and scary, and we must fear it. That's the exact same impulse that fascists, that conservatives, that religious authorities, that every capitalists use. Capitalists say it's not us billionaires that are causing the problems, it's those who look different from your family. It's the brown poor people. So that's stupid, of course, and wrong, but that's the issue. We have to find a way of overcoming our savage, blind allegiance to our false beliefs so we can learn new things. And that thing we're here to learn is, of course, the dialectic. So we'll reject anything new. And by the way, the form of that rejection seems to follow another set of 5. We had 5 stages of our development, 5 stages of interpretation, but also 5 stages of how we reject. Introduce a new idea to someone tied to their old beliefs, they'll ignore you. Until they can't, and then they might mock you. Look at that heathen, he's going to hell, ha 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 ha. Look at that goyim, he doesn't know, he believes in whatever, not us. Look at that heretic. Look at that liberal, I want those liberal tears. Now when mocking doesn't work, threatening. Hey, we're going to get you. We're going to put you in a concentration camp for thinking for yourself, for challenging our tribe leader, for challenging our religion. We're going to kill you. Exile. Hey, if you don't like it, get out. If you don't like Donald Trump, you can get out of America. If you don't like us bombing those children and murdering all those people, then you can get out. Right? You don't believe in Jeebus the way we do, you can get out. Exile. You challenge the family way of being, you're on the street, pal, which is dangerous for a 3, 4, or a 5-year-old to face. And of course, killing. Pages of human history are soaked in blood because one of the ways we reject understanding the development of our soul following the logos is to kill those who embrace understanding or threaten old false beliefs. And by the way, it's the same thing. Understanding threatens belief because understanding is about the truth and belief opposes the truth. Opposes. It's not neutral. Beliefs are not neutral. To believe that Mary was a virgin opposes evidence and reason. You can't prove that. It opposes your own cognitive faculties. I have to believe this shit I can't prove. There's something wrong with me. Prejudice beliefs oppose evidence and reason. Pathologos beliefs oppose even our development. Now, one of the reasons why I won't get many followers on this podcast or channel is because we all carry false beliefs. No one wants to hear this. Unless you are of a really good level of intelligence, really high level of intelligence, and a really high level of character. Otherwise, the best you'll get is, well, sure, those other people's beliefs, but not mine. Not my family way of being, not my family religion, not my family prejudices. So, to reject the old, the new, to keep the old. The next level of interpretation is, I like some of your ideas, but here's what we should do instead. We should all believe in Jeebus. We should all become Mormons. Magic underpants for all of us. Gooners.
Gooner bait.
It's gooner bait.
Gooner.
Gooner. Taking a piece of the old, a piece of the new idea into the old. That's the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah had a Sephardic religious tradition and learned a little bit of the dialectic from Parmenides and added that in. Trying to unify the new and the old. Can't we just do both? Can't we have understanding, which is used to purify our false beliefs, develop understanding of truth, and to go to the cause of truth? Can't we have that and beliefs? Can't we keep beliefs? Hang on a second. Don't beliefs oppose understanding? By definition? By demonstration? Sure, but can we just pretend? Can we just ignore that because politeness? And then, of course, accepting the new and rejecting the old. So that's what we go through as human beings. That's what we have to overcome. This is what takes character. And of course, these are what we face inflicted on ourselves when we go through this. So we have to make sure that we don't fall into this trap, the savage caveman barbarian trap, and what we face from others as well, which is something to be aware of. So, therefore, we can understand what we are doing at the end of the text. Socrates is engaged in the dialectic. 3, third hypothesis, understanding the art we're here to master. So our reflection on it is so we can become like him ourselves. We want to be like Socrates. He's doing it on the highest vision that Jesus has had. Not just his highest vision, his light experience, but also his highest understanding. And last time we reflected on the fact that that's our purpose. Our human meditation is to find like-minded people and have discussions with them about 2, your highest vision, and 3, your highest understanding. Not to defend it, not to debate it.
Debate dweeb.
Not to catch someone being wrong so you can punish them. That's belief ignorance. But to test your own level of understanding of your own vision. And also, it's fun. And also, you help them too. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win. So, understanding on Jesus's 2 and 3, but also he's challenging Jesus to look at the cause, which is the 1. For there to be truth, for there to be goodness, for there to be oneness, the things that are opposed by belief and ignorance, the ways of understanding our vision of mind, a oneness of mind knowing itself, that's ousia, turning about to know yourself. It's the paradigm of reality, it's the model, it's the map, therefore we could call it truth. And it's also needed for our goodness. It's the model of justice, it's the model of beauty. So anything that opposes dianoia, understanding, and direct experience opposes truth, oneness, and goodness, and therefore opposes everything that we are supposed to do as human beings. What does that? Belief. Belief and materialism. There is no mind, we can't know mind, everything is just physical stuff, which is, again, a kind of belief. So there are categories of belief as well that we can understand. But in principle, belief is the cause of all human problems. Socrates, therefore, is doing a 3 on Jesus's 2 and 3 to help him reach number 1. But of course, the human problem is we have a counterattack. So Jesus is getting all butthurt. And we can use this model of how we counterattack to understand what stage Jesus is at. So that's where we are. Let me adjust my fan. Now keep in mind this book is a masterpiece. So this ending of the book is super significant. So we can ask our questions, why is this the conversation that the book ends with? Why does this turn it all around? Why does everything change here? So let's look at some things that make this section different, the ending different. So all the way through, we've been learning about the dialectic, how we can communicate with other souls, our highest vision and understanding of truth and reality and self. Well, reality is truth, goodness, oneness. So reality and self. That's our meditation. It allows us to challenge, to test our own understanding. So that's what we've been learning. And all the way through the text, Socrates seems to be beginning his responses to Jesus with yes. Socrates is leading the dialogue, of course, because he has the art. The patient doesn't ask the doctor questions. The doctor asks the patient questions. Important to realize. And when Jesus is doing his best, Socrates says yes. He looks at what Jesus is seeing, ignores any tangents or problems he's having, and keeps the conversation rolling up until this conversation here, right at the end. Where Socrates takes Jesus's highest vision, his illumination vision, his peak experience, and says, by the way, does everything have a cause? Introducing principles. What's the realm of principles? Let's review. Well, we broke down the different classes of belief, the different divisions of belief. Pathologos beliefs are opposed to evidence and reason, but about the self and reality. They're unsuspected. That is what keeps you chained to your problems. That's what we're here to overcome as human beings. The zombie virus. Blind and savage loyalty to our beliefs and violent, savage opposition to understanding. There is also prejudice beliefs that can be proven by evidence, that are disproven by evidence and reason, and you may be able to change your mind with new evidence and reason. You go to college, you leave your small town, you got some new evidence, you talk in a different way, you have different reasoning, you can change your mind from your sexist family beliefs or racist family beliefs. Supernatural beliefs, religious beliefs, can't be proven. Did Jesus rise from the dead? Just believe it, you idiot, or else. That's called an absurd belief. Now, there are two kinds of beliefs that are trust. Trust in understanding. So while you want scientific understanding, you do have to trust in understanding to play. You won't reach scientific understanding unless you trust in reason, in evidence, until you have it for yourself. So you could call that a scientific belief. But really it's not, because that's regular understanding. You're ruled by evidence and reason of the physical world. But evidence and reason, scientific thinking, still uses principles and axioms. 1 and 1 will always have to be more than 1. If A equals B and C equals B, then A will have to equal C. If I apply this scientific rule here, and then this is a similar sort of thing, I drop the apple from the same height, I can expect the similar result. We need to do this, otherwise you can't do science. That's called an axiom. So for scientific understanding, you need a kind of trust in axioms. But it's only trust when it's a stepping stone. So the two kinds of belief: scientific belief, which is enough to make nuclear bombs and hand grenades, and the understanding applied to principles and axioms, applied to reason and experience itself, which is mind. That's what we're here to master. That's true philosophy. That's dianoia. So all of these beliefs, to be ruled by belief is to be opposed to or against evidence and reason. Scientific understanding uses evidence and reason, and true understanding or dianoia is the highest use. So here we have Socrates demonstrating dianoia by adding a principle. Hey, by the way. And he uses the dialectic method to introduce this axiom or principle. Hey, Socrates, does every experience, does this flamingo have a cause? Did something make it? Does this pen have a cause? Does everything have a cause? Does every experience have a cause? See, step by step, not a debate, not gish galloping, asking a question and the answer comes from the other person. Therefore, establishing a principle and then we apply it. Therefore, does your highest experience have a cause? Yes. Now we can add another principle or axiom. Are causes superior than its effects? Prior to its effects? Apart from or independent to its effects? Yep. One more. Are the effects like the cause? Now, belief will tell you that if you do this bad thing, if you subjugate women or you bomb Iranian school children, then you get a good thing. Do a bad thing, good result. You get freedom, you get democracy, you get cheaper oil. bullshit. That's why belief is the cause of human problems. It can violate this principle of likeness, or as above, so below. If the cause is above the effect, is there some likeness between the cause and its effect, the model and the copy, the artist and its creation? Likeness. Does the fire make something cold or something hot, like itself? And these are the three axioms Socrates introduced. And it's important for us to know this, because we want to be able to reason this way ourselves. To our friends, to ourselves, wherever we are, in whatever dimension we find ourselves in this life and beyond. It's the kind of learning that transcends the physical world. So if dianoia is applied to the physical world, but is not of the physical world, necessarily dianoia is the kind of learning we're here to do as human beings, because we don't stay in the physical world more than 100 years. So necessarily, understanding the principles, axioms, understanding reasoning, understanding experience, understanding mind itself is the kind of understanding we're here to do. And dialectic is the method. So that's what we see Socrates doing here. Does every experience have a cause? So it starts off with Socrates saying, why do those who have experienced the most brilliant light of divine luminosity, what we can recognize on our map as the second hypothesis, conclude they've reached truth? Further, these people seek to teach others how to reach that state. Some go on to create a teaching from what they take to be the meaning of that experience. The reason they believe they have reached truth is not only because they cannot imagine anything more real and more beautiful, but that their light experiences changes everything in their life. All of a sudden, they've had a glimpse of a reality that's beyond the physical world. It's life-changing. I thought we're just about manipulating people in the physical world so you can get physical things to appease your physical desires and your physical pleasures. Get all those Bugattis by doing all those crypto rug pulls.
I'm a human, I don't listen to robots.
By tricking them with robots and spam.
No, that's slop.
And doing slop.
You're a little bitch-ass baby.
And being a little bitch-ass baby so you can get all the money. But hang on a second, there's something even more real than the physical world and my Bugattis. That's going to change my life. By contrast, their former way of living seems empty and wasteful. Ah, my goodness, I was so deluded. That's why they think they've reached it and they start their own, whatever, religion, make a prophecy, write it down, hide it under a rock for someone to discover 1,000 years later and say, oh, this is the chosen prophecy. When someone is in such a state or have experienced such a state, what if they were asked, does every single experience have a cause? If they could endure that question, remember, well, that's a rational question, a necessary question. The human problem is we are carrying from our caveman lineage and from our childhood personal beliefs, our pathologos, an aversion to understanding. So if this is the highest kind of understanding, dianoia, it takes character and courage to endure such a question of this high level. So when asked about their highest vision, and if they could endure it, would they have to admit that even that experience would have a cause? If they could be asked another question, see, step-by-step questioning, that's the dialectic. By the way, are causes superior to their effects? So whatever is the cause of this light experience is better than what I'm having, even though it changed my life. And also have an independent and prior mode of being. Superior, prior, independent. would not that person have to conclude that their peak experiences are always secondary to their cause? So now, therefore, we can see Socrates using the map. Hey, buddy, I've got this map. You don't, because you haven't done enough reading of what we read on this channel. You had this 2 experience. I'm using 3 understanding to challenge your 4 belief so you can talk about its cause, the 1. So maybe you can transition from 2 to 1. See? Pretty cool. Now that's a high level of human functioning, perhaps the highest, or amongst the highest. And we wouldn't be able to see it had we not been doing all this wonderful, fun work and reflection on what we're reading. Now, remember the human problem? If this is a high level of understanding, even Jesus will reject it, and he is. I'll have to do it later. I'll have to dwell on it later. These are tells. Oh, I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it later. You made me wonder about the effects, talking about himself instead of doing the thing. Are you wondering, or are you telling me you're wondering? It's a tell. I'm the sort of person who, every charlatan does this. I'm a really trustworthy guy. Really? Why not act in a trustworthy way instead of telling me this story about yourself? Made me wonder about the effects of peak experience. I find it challenging, and I suspect it will have far-reaching consequences. Now, if he's already thinking ahead to the consequences of this conclusion, he's not in the moment, is he? And it's that fear of the consequences, or of the consequences. If that's true, then I'm not God. I haven't reached the highest state. All of my ego, all of my livelihood, all of my fame is under question. So when someone is skipping ahead to the consequences instead of answering the question being asked, that's a tell that they're in their problem state. Now we can see verification of his problem state because he does all of the clan identity belief shit. Hey, I'm taking over. I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm going to make a belief statement. I believe the differences are resting on your belief in God and my belief in God. I believe in one God and you believe in many gods. This is one that a lot of religious people lean on. Well, I'm better because I have one God, and one God is better than many gods. So, betraying or opposing the principles of reason, of dialectic, using his beliefs as evidence, not asking questions, taking over when he shouldn't. Problem state. God alone is the Lord of all. See? Garbage. Who the fuck cares? You just saying that? We haven't reasoned it. What's your evidence? Your evidence is I think so.
Oh, fuck. Calm your fucking tits.
He needs to calm his tits.
Hey, you can't say that to her. You sure, back.
No, not her. Jesus.
You have the brain of a child if you think.
If I think. So, God alone is Lord, and our freedom lies in this principle, blah, 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 blah. To find him within is the kingdom of God. That's an interesting speech. No, monologuing. He's monologuing in a problem. By the way, we are the zealots. There are the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Essenes. My tribe. I am this tribe. We are the best tribe. Caveman shit. If it's true for everyone. That's the universal nature of truth. To say, oh, I'm in this team and you're in that team, garbage. We're team MAGA, you're team liberal, garbage. You're a Goyim, we're a Jew, garbage. You're a Palestinian, we're a Catholic, garbage. It's just garbage. Caveman, savage, garbage. Now, this is a difference in the dialogue because Socrates doesn't say yes and he says no this. No, 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 I'm not following you. No, those premises were not true. No, your beliefs are not correct. No, the actual difference, if you're talking about what makes Socrates and Jesus different, is an understanding of the word God. If there is a highest divine source, it needs to have a model for creation. There's our first and second hypothesis, and we can call that the Logos. You yourself say that Logos or the Word was in the beginning with God. Therefore, Logos is needed as a model for creation. It must be therefore eternal and unchanging. So there's our single God, oneself, using the paradigm or the model in mind. That's the model of understanding, but it's also the model of creation. And here we see Socrates saying it has to be out of time, but also be a model for everything in time. See? The nous experience can be the greatest positives of each of these building blocks of thinking. So it has to exist eternally, has to have a cause. Wait. Sorry, the Logos is eternal and unchanging. It has to have a vitality, a mode of being. So it's not a dead thing. And each of these unchanging features that we've been putting on the board, all of these qualities that we've got on the board, you can personify. Since they all have a mode of being, we say that God, the Creator, uses the Logos as a paradigm or as a model, like you say. But surely if it has a mode of being or exists eternally, it itself must have a cause. Since all that exists must have a cause. The cause of the Logos or paradigm we call Chronos. By that same reasoning, the Chronos must have a cause. We call that Uranos. These are what we call gods. They can be personified and celebrated, and the ultimate cause of all that we say is the One. The ultimate cause of all that is, we say, is the One or the good. So Socrates seems to be breaking down the fact that, hey, if our peak experience of nous, where's my pen? I just changed the battery. Maybe it wasn't a problem with the battery. What's going on with my bed? Alright. Go on there. What? There we go. Wait. Okay. So if that has a cause, he's saying that is Chronos, but it has a cause Uranos. And that's interesting because he seems to be breaking up the realm of self. If we say the physical world has a model, you imitate your parents or parental surrogates in the physical world. That's where you get your belief. There's your model. I just know Jesus is real. I just know that whites are better than blacks. I just know that women are less than men. I just know it. It's common sense. This is the language of common sense used by conservatives and religious folk and capitalists. They're appealing to your ignorant beliefs, not reason and understanding. That's the model that you just know. You could understand the fifth hypothesis, materialism or rejection of anything higher, as its activity, the activity of the model, just as we can recognize the activity of mind, understanding. That's our dianoia. But Socrates seems to be breaking down this first hypothesis cause of self that's beyond even mind into a model and activity. The activity is to create the model, to create the logos, chronos, that's the activity. But it has to have a cause, Uranos. So the model of self, Uranos, has an activity, chronos, needed to generate the logos as a whole. That's pure intelligence. Pure intelligence or mind or pure being is logos as a oneness or as a model. Logos as an activity is the art we're here to master, dialectic. So the ultimate cause, he said, is the one or the good. Now we're introducing the idea of true. From our reading in the text, there seems to be three parts, three aspects of the self. The ruling, or the highest, or hyparxis, highest existing. The power, the vivific, the enlivening, the inspiring, and the doing, the activity. And in philosophy, that's the anagogic triad. The activity of reading, Apollo, bringing it together as we're doing on the board, Aphrodite, seeing how all the pieces come together. That inspires us, that when we apply it to our life, we get inspired when we see it all comes together. And then the more that we do the reading and reflection, the better we get at the dialectic or Hermes. So if that's a fundamental structure of reality, it also applies to our soul. We desire... Oh, we have a spam. We desire spam in chat. Spam.
You piece of shit. There's a robot.
Dumbass.
Dumbass robot.
You don't talk to me, you robot. Shut up.
Shut up,
You need
robot.
to flood these platforms with fake people. AI slop.
Your AI slop. So there's a part of our soul that desires the good. There's a part of our soul that reasons, brings things into a oneness. And there's a part of our soul that seeks our activities, motivates us to do something. I desire a lovely cookie maxing. I desire a lovely cookie.
I think it's awesome.
I have to plan or reason how I'm going to get the cookie, and then I have to go out and do the thing that gets me the cookie. Cookie maxing.
I guess, but UFOs might be Jesus.
UFOs may be Jesus.
You know what? Suck my dick.
Come on, man.
Oh my fuck.
So, if we reason into a one, and if we desire the good, does it follow that we seek the true? We seek to do true things. We don't want to be scammed. We want to eat a real cookie, not a pretend cookie. Not a metaverse cookie. Which fits with our categories of self terms. So we just looked at today the, let's make some space. It's getting a bit messy on the board. We looked at how we can define the different cognitive functions using the building blocks of thought that apply to oneness, whole and part, same and different, etc. We can also define, again, with the highest positives, the highest excellence, reality, beauty. These are the goodnesses, again, experienced as adjectives in our world. We desire beauty, we desire justice, but they are themselves selfers, beauty itself, justice itself, in the paradigm. But also, for this to exist, there has to be the lesser physical world copy of what's false in our beliefs, the greater paradigm or model that we've been talking about of what's truth, but there also has to be a principle. For there to be cause and effect, model and copy, there has to be the principle for that first. That principle of principles would be the ultimate. Therefore, if there is an activity of chronos to create the greater paradigm of truth, second hypothesis, it has to have a cause that we could call the ultimate principle. So Uranus is the ultimate principle of true, allowing for the greater model of truth that manifests into the physical world. So this we can use to understand the human soul. To have our self as a recognition of the highest ultimate principle of truth, to have your mind in that peak experience that we're talking about with Jesus, the model, which has the logos within it, so it's understandable. And our functioning in the physical world is through dialectic in our soul. Our soul may not be true, but we can act in the lesser dimension where we face copies in people's belief and help people to overcome what's false and the cause of human suffering in our activity of our soul. Therefore, 1, 2, and 3 hypotheses. The stages above belief that we're here to move into, the activity of helping remove our beliefs that we do in the physical world or the world of soul, the model, which is our peak experience of mind, and its cause, the self, first, second, and third. So going back to this triad, our ruling term is the self, our inspiring term, the power that we have, is that model or mind, and our activity is dianoia or dialectic or understanding. Should have been different colors. So there's a threesome happening. 3 aspects of the soul, 3 aspects of the hero's journey, the movement through reading, the principle of the hyparxis or the highest experience. Let's write it out properly. The ruling or hyparxis, fullest flowering, hyparxis. Oh, it's too thick. That's what she said.
It's sad. And
Jesus Christ, Emma, this is not Opie and Anthony or whatever the hell.
But it was a funny joke. That was funny.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now.
Oh my goodness.
You actually are too stupid to interact with the rest of the world. You should literally be in a labor camp for the rest of your life. You should be in the mines for the rest of your life. You
Oh
should
my God.
lose the right to vote because you're such a fucking idiot.
Just for that bad joke. Oh my goodness. So there's our ruling or our hyparxis. Make it a proper triangle. The power term or the vivific, power or enlivening. That didn't fit. Boo. Power or enlivening term. Enlivening. And the activity. That's our reading. Activity. Hyparxis. X-I-S. That also fits with what we just said. The first hypothesis, self. That's our highest state of being. Our mind peak experience of mind is that brilliant light of being, which is that paradigm. And the third hypothesis, understanding or dialectic. The activity that we can do in the physical world to purify what's false. So therefore, fundamental building block of reality are these three terms. The ultimate principle of self, which is the first cause that Socrates just said is the one or the good, or the self. Its model, the logos, that even in the Bible you can find the word logos in the Greek. In the beginning there was the word. In the Greek that's the real word is logos, which is of course better than just simply a word. Its cause, or maybe the activity of the self, chronos, which itself needs a cause, the model or the principle, which he is calling Uranos. So those are questions. Because normally we talk about the one self as the first, but that means we can add to the hypotheses of Parmenides if we recognize there is a model copy dynamic through each of these levels. Model copy, or greater lesser, or model and activity. Belief, yes, that's the model, you know it all at once. Nous, yes, that's the model or paradigm because it's the truth. Activity of mind. So there's our puzzle about the self. So it's very high level of reasoning. Highest, and perhaps greater than the highest that we have so far. If the highest work of philosophical work is the Parmenides, which gives us this map of our soul's development, if we're adding to the tradition, then we are at the highest. So it's pretty cool that our author and this book gives us what we need to contribute in the highest possible way to the development of understanding for ourselves and our species. Considering those who are in the belief-based level are doing everything in their power to oppose truth, oppose goodness, oppose oneness, and they are the cause of the death and destruction sweeping across reality, sweeping across the physical world. So we need philosophers in charge, or we need those in charge to be philosophers, as Socrates said. Because, belief and ignorance causes our problems, and wisdom is the activity that we can use to address problems and reach our excellence, which is what we're doing here. Which is why I have so many viewers. That's a joke. Because the principle is the higher you develop through understanding, the more opposed by the many you become. Because everyone, our human activity is to surface the beliefs. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have false beliefs about self and reality to address. So everyone has this opposition to new understanding or truth. And in my own personal experience, I've only met a handful of people who have been open to new understanding, which is good, beneficial, and can bring them to a higher state of oneness. Very, very rare. But, that's the next age. If we are going to pull ourselves away from Armageddon and our extinction, then perhaps we'll get lots of people who are going to be into this stuff, because that's what's needed. So that was Socrates' response to Jesus's triggered counterattack. Hey, no. It isn't that you believe in the right God because you're the right team, you idiot. And your belief is better than my belief. You can't, as Einstein says, you can't solve problems caused by one level of thinking by that same level of thinking. You can't believe your way out of human problems because human problems are caused by belief. So you, Jesus, saying, well, I believe in something better and your beliefs are different. And that's why we will always be at odds. Yes, belief is always at odds. We will never, ever, 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 ever solve human problems individually with belief. This new age positive thinking shit will not work. You can never, ever, ever, ever solve our human problems globally with belief. That's why religious people only do harm. That's why our politicians who have their beliefs as their qualification are only doing harm. It's only understanding that should qualify us. It's true for medicine. You have to understand. You can't just believe yourself a surgeon, flying a plane, fixing an engine, everything except for some fucking crazy ass reason, politics, religion, and capitalists, and I guess being a parent. So that's the barbaric, savage nature of our human evolution from cavemen that we are here to overcome. It's not a blame game. There was an evolutionary survival benefit of blind fear of everything different before we were evolved enough for self-reflection and language, but it no longer applies. So too, for the individual, there was a survival benefit in opposing your own development of understanding to survive when your parents play king priest of the house. But once you're old enough to think for yourself or you're out of the house, it's a problem that no longer works. So it's not a blame game, it's an understanding game. So while Jesus is saying our problem is a problem of belief and our beliefs are better because I'm in the right team, which is what every ignorant person says, Socrates says, actually, all of these principles of understanding, including Chronos and Uranos, its causes, all of the aspects of the paradigm or second hypothesis, you can personify with characters. That's what the gods are. So you saying I believe in many gods and you believe in one god is stupid. It's just a personification of these self-logos terms or aspects, or the aspects within the paradigm, the logos within the paradigm. And by the way, it has a cause too. So there's a god, Chronos, the activity of self. Oh, but that has to have a cause, Uranos. And the ultimate cause is the one self. So there's my singular God. So yes, there is one God, self. It can be known as a kind of Uranos model. So there's a kind of knowingness different from regular knowingness because it's the cause of regular knowingness. So again, it has to be some kind of knowingness because of the principle of likeness. As above, so below. If the ultimate nature of the paradigm or the peak experience is knowing everything, then if the effect is knowingness, its cause, if the most primary thing is knowingness, the cause must also have a kind of knowingness. But the principles that Socrates is saying is it's a higher, it's a prior knowingness. What was the thing he said before Jesus was triggered? The cause is a superior kind of knowingness. Independent, a knowingness beyond even knowing yourself in that experience. And prior. So knowingness is secondary to this kind of knowingness. What's that kind of higher, prior, superior knowingness? Uranos. But it has to have an activity, Chronos. That activity is to generate its copy, which happens to be the paradigm. But somehow it's one. So the model and activity, Uranos and Chronos, are somehow aspects of a pure one, which is fascinating. Imagine that. Our highest goal. The self, you, the most primary thing, the most transcendent thing, the most immediate thing, the most personal thing is the self. And somehow it is knowing and an activity all at once. In some way, that's beyond anything in experience or in the physical world. That's fascinating. That should be exciting. So Jesus said, well, your beliefs. So Jesus took over the conversation, abandoned the dialectic, so abandoned the activity of mind, dianoia. He abandoned the paradigm, the principles. So he abandoned nous or mind. And he instead went into his own personal beliefs. Let's make it a battle here. And by the way, beliefs can never, ever, ever, ever fix anything. Ever. Ever. Oh, it gives you comfort. No, it doesn't give you comfort. It causes harm. You're not comforted by ignorance. If someone says, oh, you're better because of your color of your skin, or you're worse because you're a woman, oh, that gives me comfort because now I know why I'm prejudiced. No, it doesn't help you. It makes you fucking tolerate oppression of belief. The marketing is, oh, you're too stupid. You need lies. Let me tell you this lie about our magic Mormon underpants because you're too fucking stupid to know the truth and fulfill your purpose. Bullshit. Bullshit. They are copying their own sick, false model who did it to them. That activity of imposing their own model, they are imitating from the physical world, imitation. That's ignorance. And that's where Jesus is trying to drag the conversation. Socrates says no. I think all the way through the text, he hasn't said no. Now he's saying no, no, no. Your ignorance of what the gods are is the difference. You think they're literal. They're not. The gods represent this level of mind, the logos, the model and activity of mind. God, singular, represents its cause. And if you've got a brain to use, you can wonder about how it can have a model and activity, because its effects have a model and activity in the realm of mind and the realm of the physical world. And what's the principle? Likeness. For creation, there has to be a likeness. So if you can understand the realm of mind as a model and activity and the physical world as a model and activity, then there has to be a kind of model and activity in a superior, higher, and prior way in the self, of the self, while also being one. That's the mystery. That's the puzzle. That's the big one. That's God. And by the way, you can even represent the soul's movement out of ignorance of beliefs, ending human problems for themselves, out of the physical world, into the realm of the gods or mind, and into the realm of God or self. That's the hero's journey. So we have God, gods, and heroes. Heroes. That's Socrates' response to Jesus trying to sabotage the conversation with being triggered. And Jesus says, you expressed it well, Socrates. But I'd like to change the subject. I would like to know the role of gods in your life as a philosopher. And then Socrates goes on to explain what we just covered already, so we don't have to read that right now. He said, by the way, I read in order to learn the logos. That's called Apollo. That's what we do here on the channel as well. Reading true philosophy, which means reading books that are intelligible, have the logos within them, are complete, so you don't have to project your own beliefs onto them. So when people come onto this channel and say, philosophy, why don't you read Hegel or Nietzsche or my friend? Because it's not a complete work. It's not an intelligible work. You're just projecting your own stupid ass beliefs. That's modern philosophy, by the way. We're not blaming those people. That's what they taught philosophy is. How can you use debate
debate dweeb.
to verify or justify your ignorant false beliefs. That's bullshit. That's why for as many philosophy lecturers or philosophy students as there has been, we still live in a world ruled by capitalists, clergy, and conservatives. The absolute worst cognitive functioning of our species. In other words, them debates with them philosophy stuffed shirts aren't fucking solving anything. That's why we don't read that nonsense. Apollo, intelligible works of the logos that reflect reality. Aphrodite, bringing it together into a oneness, which gives us power, inspires us, motivates us, because it's true and it works and we can verify it in our lives. And as we continue to do that, in learning how to read, we discover the dialectic. And the dialectic is Hermes and was what leads us to the self. That's what we said earlier. Let's see it in the text. For me, I have to say beauty itself exists and has a vast power. There's our power term. The overwhelming experience of beauty drives those who do catch a glimpse of her to do whatever they can to gain a more full and complete vision of her, from a glimpse to a higher vision. As you know, wisdom is the most beautiful of existence, so that philosophers are called lovers of wisdom. So there's our second hypothesis, experience of beauty itself, along with its understanding, wisdom. To pursue lovers of wisdom, philosophy, philosophia, that's what the word means. So literally what we're doing here is what philosophy actually is. What those other people do at colleges or on YouTube channels or on Joe Rogan's podcast,
I don't want to eat a monkey,
is the exact opposite. Not just the opposite, literally opposes truth, oneness, and goodness, which is the definition of wisdom, or the second hypothesis. They are doing anti-philosophy. You tell them. Because if you tell them, you are going to be sharing truth. They're going to not like that, because they're still savages, because they haven't done this work on removing what keeps them savage, what keeps them blindly loyal to the beliefs of their upbringing. So you tell them, don't ask me to tell them. So to pursue this Aphrodite experience of beauty, you need the arts of philosophy, Apollo. Since Apollo represents the powers that perfect and convert those attracted to harmony to reach intellectual truth and that light of luminosity that resides there. So the harmony of these books, that's understanding. If you're already attracted to harmony or reasoning, then you'll love to read these books. These books are Apollo. His symbols are music, since harmony is most readily seen through her inspired creations. Socrates talked about himself first finding music and then finding these texts and philosophers like Parmenides. That's why we read these books written by Socrates, Parmenides, and Pierre Grimes. Hermes has from the earliest of times been called the supplier of philosophy and elevates those souls akin to him. But unless they include in their study the dialectic, which is the power of the logos, they will utterly fail. It's all about the dialectic, baby. They'll fail to achieve the passage from the brilliant light of being to the good itself. So now we're understanding why Jesus is getting butthurt, why he's drinking all the copium, why he's getting aura mogged. He doesn't have the dialectic. And Socrates just said, for philosophers, the gods represent beauty, which is one of the aspects or selfers of the model, of the greater model, of the truth of reality. In other words, beauty that we fall in love with if we catch a glimpse of that non-physical experience in whatever way it comes to us. That's second hypothesis. It can awaken you to try and catch a glimpse of, to develop that glimpse into further experiences and experiences in more depth, and integrating that experience of beauty and justice to be a beautiful and just person. That's dianoia. That's understanding. That's the activity, which is an activity that's reflecting on its model. The more you reflect on the model, the more your activity is like it. The more you watch Tony Hawk, the more you're a better skateboarder. The more the artist looks at the model, the better the painting is going to reflect that model. So there's Apollo, there's Aphrodite, but without Hermes, the dialectic, you won't be able to go from that vision of, what did he call it? Brilliant light of being, which is nous, which is a brilliant light, to the good itself, or the good self. Therefore, Socrates, we just said today that Socrates is doing a dialectic, third hypothesis, on Jesus's glimpse, but instead of passaging into the self, its cause, which is independent, prior, and superior, but also like it, as above, so below, he instead fell into his beliefs and his ignorance and is doing everything he can to oppose his own benefit, his own goodness, his own understanding, his own oneness. So now again we can see why Jesus is being butthurt. And I think we missed that principle of as above, so below. So let's make sure we've got that in our pocket as well. So right, we started reading here. Why do people who've had that second hypothesis, luminosity experience, think that they've reached truth? Right before it, he said, there's one more principle. Let's go back. The final stage is not in the realm of experience. Doesn't matter how brilliant and luminous it is, since it transcends experience. Many cultures would reject this and consider it heretical. Why? Because if you're saying there is a state of enlightenment or being or truth beyond Jesus's peak experience, burn him at the stake. Jesus is the best. He is the best boy. He's number one. Jeebus, Jeebus, Jeebus. And if you say you're better than Jeebus, how dare you? It's Jeebus. Why? Do you know the guy? No, I've never met the guy. How do you know about him? My parents told me. And then what did he say? All sorts of contradictory shit. But he's the best. Because he's the best.
I think it's so awesome.
I think it's awesome.
And she spit on him also.
And also she spit on them.
You sick fuck.
Sick fuck. Heretical. Now, that's not just Jesus, that's Buddha, that's whoever. There are many, many prophets or inspired ones who have had a luminosity experience in all different sorts of ways, and they claim to be it. And anyone... And by the way, that's still playing out their parental ignorance. Your parents may not have had a brilliant light experience, but they still think they know everything. Act that way, especially at times when you are challenging the family tribe way of being. So you can see people who've reached this stage and haven't done philosophical midwifery just use that experience to play out their problems of tyranny. So anyone who goes beyond you, cast him out. Exile him, ignore him, mock him. What are the three? Ignore him, mock him, threaten him, exile him, or kill the one for being a heretic. And of course, this is a trope in Eastern literature, anime. There's the guru who have had a light experience, but haven't done philosophical midwifery. They've only done this part of the graph. They've only gone up and they've become a sage of ninjutsu, personifying the perfection of the logos, but they've done no work in purifying their pathologos problems. So they might be a sage, but they are a pervy sage, or a gambling sage like Tsunade, or a drunken sage like many main anime characters' teachers, Jiraiya, or a pervy sage like, I don't know, lots. Every single one, it seems. Jesus is in that category. He's being a jerk in this conversation. Even though he's had a second hypothesis glimpse, a transfiguration experience that Paul wants to ignore, because Paul's all about belief. So those people who are interested in believing Paul, they're the Armageddon people. And John, who supports Paul. They're the ones who want to kill everyone because belief can only do harm. So their magic ending to the story of the human race is everyone killing everyone. No fucking duh. Of course it is. That's all belief can do. Only do harm. And Paul, or modern Christians who all follow Paul and not Jesus, therefore want to destroy the world to bring in Armageddon. That's what we're facing now. And it's our job to grow up a little bit and pay some attention. That's what this book is allowing us to do. Understand what's going on. So they'd find it heretical to say that there is something beyond the realm of experience. And Jesus says, it pleases me that you've added a thoughtful addition to my position. I would, even though it would likely to upset the many, newsflash, it's going to upset Jesus too.
Look at this broad. Freaks.
You're a baby. You're a little baby.
You have the brain of a child.
These are gooners.
Goodness. Yes, Jesus too. It's likely to upset the many, but I'll be pleased to hear it. I seldom express it openly because it's met with such scorn. Why would a true principle that benefits fucking everyone be met with scorn? That's the human issue. Why do human beings react with scorn to something true and helpful? You can ask the same question. Why do I not have 50,000 followers on Twitch like Asmongold and Hassan Piker? That's a joke. I don't know. There's lots of reasons, but that's one of them. This is one of them. The audience has to be this is another reason. The audience has to be at a high level of intelligence. If you're a dummy, you're not gonna stick around on this channel at all. No way. Please share it. As above, so below. Unless the audience has a high level of intelligence, it will likely be rejected. As above, so below. By the way, that's that principle of likeness that shows why beliefs are necessarily the cause of human problems. Because of human problems, if we all, by definition, axiomatically seek our goodness, well, simply if we... Now, already today we've shown that the definition of belief is a identification, a self-identification, state of mind and functioning. There's our triad, the triad of self. Of the lesser of those self-logos terms, part, limit, in time, in conflict and opposition to the greater. So by definition, beliefs are harmful. They oppose our goodness, the greater, the whole. But in function, this is a dialectic definition. We've defined belief and shown how it's the cause of problems. By functioning or demonstration, if all souls seek the good, and we understand the good will reach the good. Hooray! That's philosophy. That's Apollo, gaining an understanding of the good to reach that good we were inspired by, Aphrodite, culminating in Hermes, the dialectic, allowing us to reach the good. The direct experience of the good, second hypothesis, and transitioning from that to the first, the good itself. But you know what you can do? Because belief opposes understanding, opposes truth and evidence, you can say, oh, this bad thing is good. Why? What's the evidence? What's the reason? The evidence and reason is shut the fuck up and do what I say. Otherwise, you'll get smacked or get killed or go to hell, or you're a sinner. So belief can convince the bad is good. Another thing belief can do is say that a bad thing can cause. That's the as above, so below. As above, cause, likeness, so below. As talks about likeness, as above, so below. That's metaphor, that's an analogy, by the way. As a king is to his subjects, so too a shepherd is to his sheep. Likeness. Principle running through reality for creation. But you don't have to use principles with belief. It's just a fucking belief. It's nothing. It's imitation. It's people pretending to know shit. That's it. Nothing more. There's nothing higher than that in belief. Now, except of course, trusting in understanding at the beginning of your scientific understanding, or trusting in axioms to get into philosophy. For example, you have to trust as an axiom that you can know the self through the logos. That's a kind of belief. In fact, that's the only belief you need for philosophy. That's the belief Socrates talks about in the Republic as courage. You have to take these axioms for granted to play. You don't end with the axioms, you end with understanding and direct confirmation. But how can you start? How can you seek the One Piece unless you trust that there's reason and evidence? It's not anti-reason. There's reason and evidence to trust in the scientific teacher. There's reason and evidence to trust in philosophy and the logos. Regular beliefs, what we mean by belief, isn't that. It's opposed to evidence and reason. So therefore, you don't need any evidence and reason to say, oh, it's good to kill immigrants. Oh yeah, I'm a Nazi. What's Nazism? It's a belief. But why is it true? Because politicians can be Nazis. And that's the conservatives, the right wings. So if that's their standard of truth, the leader has it, and we allow beliefs to rule our society, then I'm going to become a MAGA. So this principle of likeness can be rejected by belief and say, hey, if you kill enough people, if you let enough child eaters into American politics or into the billionaire, if you allow billionaires to exist, then it will trickle down. In other words, a good thing, everyone becoming wealthy, will happen if you do a bad thing, give all the money to the billionaires. So, necessarily, you have to reject principles of likeness, which you can see with understanding, and reject an understanding of a good to accept the belief that a bad thing is good or a bad thing can cause a good. By definition, belief is necessary for human harm. By functioning. Necessarily. And we even broke it down into the divisions. Pathologos, prejudice, supernatural beliefs, and all scientific beliefs are all leading to Armageddon. It's our pathologos that keep us blind to ignorant, blind to understanding. It's our prejudice that is being used by the ruling class. Hey, you hate Muslims, you hate brown people. Then all we have to do is end the world by fighting Iran in a nuclear war. Supernatural beliefs, then Jesus will come back. And we're using our scientific beliefs to create the nuclear weapons. So therefore, by division, beliefs cause our harm. And therefore, in conclusion, they all oppose reason, evidence, and direct experience of intelligence. They're all belief as a cognitive function, as a way of apprehending and a way of being, opposes the truth of the good. Opposes truth, opposes the good, opposes the one. And it's those things we seek. Our peak experience is oneness, truth, and goodness. Our highest level of enlightenment is the same three terms that are the captain of these aspects, the gods. Team oneness, team goodness, and team truth. The one, the good, and the true is its cause. So therefore, the part of the soul that seeks oneness, our reasoning part, leads to, if we follow it without our belief blocks, reaching the one. The part of our soul that desires our goodness will reach the good. And the part of our soul that moves our outward functioning will reach the true. Fun? So, belief opposes this principle of as above, so below. Understanding uses it as a maxim, so as an axiom, so therefore, or a principle. So therefore, causes are superior to its effects, independent and prior. So even peak experiences are secondary, but we can use the principle of likeness to hypothesize. If the greatest human experience is a oneness, is a goodness, is the truth of reality, then its cause must somehow be one, true and good, in some higher, independent, prior way. And if it can be described as pure intelligence or knowing, there must be a way of knowing the self. Higher, prior, superior way. Independent way. And if its cause is a knowingness, so there's our ousia, knowingness, but also it is understandable, so it can be the paradigm and the aspects of understanding of the gods. The two primary features that most fully define our peak experience is ousia and logos. Therefore, the self must be ousia and logos in some way for it to be the cause. So we can come back to this map here and say, hang on a second. Could Chronos therefore be the ousia of the self, the knowingness of the self? Is that the model? Is the model an ousia? And does its activity have to use the parts or the harmony, the Apollo, the intelligibility? Is that Chronos and Uranus? Does that reflect Apollo and Aphrodite? The whole, the model, the ousia, the knowing yourself as beauty, Aphrodite, the reading to get the parts to learn Apollo, the logos, allowing you to have the activity of reading and helping others through the dialectic? That's our question. Are there two aspects of model and activity, or logos and ousia, or Chronos and Uranus, Uranus and Chronos of the one self or first hypothesis? So those are the axioms that Socrates is employing. And that's also why we see Jesus getting triggered. Not only because it requires the highest level of intelligence to endure third hypothesis questions of the dialectic about your peak experience, but those who've had that peak experience think there's nothing higher. Because there isn't anything higher. In experience, this transcends its cause is transcendent, prior, independent from experience. So they think it's the best. They're not familiar with understanding, so they lack the intelligence to endure such questions. But also, as we've seen, as a principle of human beings, the higher your understanding, the more likely it is to trigger the ignorant. Socrates says, that's why I don't talk about the highest principle of as above, so below. The very principle we need to go above. How can you go higher? You haven't reached that higher yet, so what do you know about it? Nothing. But if there is a likeness, like when you look in the mirror, that's not you. It's a two-dimensional image, but it's like yourself. It's a copy of a model, but that copy, because of the principle of likeness, can tell you things about yourself. But it's the real thing has mind, life, goals, dreams, energy. Your two-dimensional reflection in the mirror doesn't. So you don't mistake it for truth, but you can learn about truth. That's the principle of looking at yourself in the mirror. That's the principle of learning about what it means to be a philosopher, using the analogies of mechanics and dentists and pilots and doctors that we've been using. The fact that we can use analogies because of this principle, but it's also the principle Socrates must use to take someone who's reached the greatest experience through that doorway to its cause. So the other principle of human ignorance is the higher the principle and the higher of our use of understanding, the more likely you are to trigger people. We can now understand as why Socrates says, I don't talk about it often. I seldom express it because it's met with such scorn. So, Jesus thinks it's it. He lacks the high level of intelligence to endure the question. And it's the highest principle, so it's the most likely to trigger people. As above, so below. There's also a fourth reason why why Jesus is getting butthurt and triggered from this dialectic. That can fucking help, that he needs to have. Where else? He's got Socrates there. Who else can have this conversation with him if he doesn't have Twitch? He's so likely to have met Socrates, and he's still being a little bitch baby about this.
You're a baby. You're a little baby.
So he's being a little baby about it.
Look at this broad.
He's being a broad.
That's weird that you think that.
He's being weird.
It's great because it's stupid, but it gets a lot with
He's being stupid.
dead-eyed. And I don't use this kind of terminology lightly. Dimwits.
He's being a dimwit. The fourth reason is, of course, because what Socrates says here. Without philosophy, you won't read Apollo, reflect Aphrodite, and therefore build an understanding of Hermes, the dialectic. Hermes is what elevates those souls akin to him. So as we read with the dialectic, as we talk with the dialectic, as we practice the dialectic with our friends, we become like Hermes. And if we don't become like Hermes, and we don't have the dialectic, we don't have the power of the logos. The power of what? Activity. Activity, remember? The principle of activity is logos. It is inherent in the ousia or model. The activity of self is to generate pure intelligence. The activity of pure intelligence is to purify our false beliefs through the dialectic and perfect our logos activity through the dialectic, because that's the power of logos. Logos is the activity. Logos is the power. Logos is the method. And the dialectic is the utilization of that. It's the power of that. Without the dialectic, the power of the logos, it will utterly fail to achieve the passage from the brilliant light of being to the good itself. And that's what we see in this conversation here. That's the fourth reason why Jesus is getting butthurt. Because Socrates is saying, hey, this peak experience, what's its cause? That's the passage from the brilliant light of being to the good itself, or the good self. So that's four reasons why we can see Jesus being triggered. We saw some tells that he's likely to be triggered. He's putting it off for, I'll have to think about that later. He's talking about himself as a CV or a story. I'm the sort of person who likes that conversation rather than doing it. He's taking control of the conversation. And then we saw that those tells playing it. What was the third thing he did? You said, I'm the sort of person, I'll dwell on that later, makes me wonder. Oh yes, and I jumped ahead. It's probably going to have some consequences that are challenging. And then of course, we saw it play out. Belief stuff, I'm on team zealot. My beliefs are better than your beliefs. Trust me, bro. God is one, God is Lord, heaven and all that shit. Just trust me, bro. So functioning opposed to the dialectic, taking rulership of the dialectic, all of these things. We saw his tells, and then we saw his playing it out. Socrates responding, no, this is actually the case. your idea of God is stupid because it's actually a personification of these 5 levels of development, the hero's journey of the soul through the physical world to put an end to their ignorance and beliefs and develop understanding, which allows them to become one of the gods in the realm of mind, the gods representing the aspects of that second hypothesis nous experience, and to use that dialectic to reflect on that experience to go through it to its cause, the God. So that the theology or the gods is a hero's journey of the soul to become one of the gods or join with the gods, understand the gods, and go through to recognize yourself as the singular God or oneself. That's the real problem we're having, idiot, says Socrates to Jesus.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you.
He says, I'm going to find you, I'm going to get you. But now we can understand why. Those 4 things we said. Lacks the familiarity, thinks it's the highest experience, hasn't done his work on beliefs, lacks the intelligence to endure these questions, but also, as the highest principle, it's likely to challenge everyone who hasn't been doing the work. Oh, and of course, doesn't have the dialectic. So he's not familiar with the dialectic as well. So these are all the reasons why he's being triggered. And we can see him being triggered. Beautifully said. Let's finish. So without the dialectic or Hermes, so I have to trust that beauty exists, Aphrodite, temporarily till I see it. I have to read, learn harmony of the logos that you can first see in music, Apollo. See a harmony in music? Be open to a harmony of reality and read these intelligible works that are self. So we need a work like the one we're reading here, the ones that we read on this channel, that are complete, that stand alone, that exist without any need for interpretation, that are self-sufficient, complete, and intelligible in themselves. It would not need any interpretation beyond its own understanding of the elements of theology that we just defined. What is real theology? However, if there are any weakness, then the correction would be to add to its explanation, as we added the idea of truth with one and the good, and having the reasons for doing so. But that's not actually adding to the book. The book is quite clearly leaving us that puzzle to get solved. It's not an interpretation, so it's a complete work. If a work needs interpretation, it is incomplete, says Jesus. It needs something to be added or ignored or rejected. Our work does not need any interpretation. So there is our author anticipating us as readers coming to this conclusion, coming to this level of reading and confirming for us, yes, indeed. That's why we don't read Hegel or any of these other nitwits. These other...
That's weird that you think that.
Other weirdos.
It's great because it's stupid, but it...
You actually are too stupid to interact with the rest of the world. You should literally be in a labor camp for the rest of your life. You should be in the mines for the rest of your life. You should lose the right to vote,
all of those who should be in the mines and shouldn't be able to vote, because this work is complete. So there we have it confirmed in the text itself. Which is a little bit ahead of what we were. So we're going to get to that anyway. Here we go. Yes, so Aphrodite, Apollo, and the dialectic Hermes. Thus, I can say that in my philosophical journey, I pay heed to Aphrodite, Apollo, and Hermes. Beautifully said. I still wonder if you believe they are gods. So again, Jesus is in... So even though he just outlined it, even though Jesus can recognize it was beautifully said, he still blocked. I still wonder if you believe they are gods. What the fuck are you talking about, you idiot? He just told you. They are personifications of eternal forces that we make use of in our upward journey. What do you mean, are they gods? Yes, they are gods in that they're personifications of forces of reality. No, they're not people with mustaches and beards. But yes, they have their own existence because they have to eternally exist with their own functioning and life force and power for them to function eternally for every person that will come to be in evolution. What's wrong with you nitwit?
Can't you just engage with anything in a way that's like meaningful ever? It's just boring, I think, is the problem. I'm just bored of it.
You're boring me with your nitwittedness.
You suck. You're ugly. I'm gonna get your ass.
And he's gonna get his ass. So, I believe you will say that it's not likely in the way that I think of God. Yeah, okay, all right. So, all right. I imagine for you, you will say that they represent forces or powers that be, and that they exist eternally. That's what I just said. They represent powers or forces that be, and they exist eternally, doing what they do. However, do they exist as gods? Yes, Jesus. Yes to that Jesus. Yes, nitwit.
Well, that's not true because I don't think so.
Yes.
Why can't these guys shut up, whether or not it's about Jesus?
Because we're reading about them. Yes, they do exist. You have seen what we call the elements of theology, and our philosophy expresses that vision in a way that preserves its integrity and truth. Now, to that, so that was Jesus' little hissy fit, not hissy fit. Everyone will face a time when they're challenged by the logos to go beyond where they're at, and they may be triggered into their problem state. We're just understanding it so we can recognize it, so we can work with it as dialecticians, ourselves, in our relationships, and in the world. So it's not we're making fun of him, but just for fun. It's not a blame game. I just saw something of interest to us, Socrates. We have been searching to understand the mystery of the nature and kinds of interpretation, and I do think I've come to a solution to our problem. We've identified the many kinds of interpretation we have. That's these 5 things here. 5 reactions. And it even fits on the pyramid, along with our 5 stages of logos development. There are those 5 equally 1, 2 stages of interpretation as we reject our learning. And named each. I don't think we've given them a name yet. We could though. So maybe we should. Like we've got the cloak. We've got examples of each of them. Rejector of, there were names, weren't there? There was the rejector of the new truths. That's Paul as an example, but the rejector, offering alternatives. No, we haven't got names for them. We could make them. After the rejector is the who offers an alternative? Car salesman. Hey, you want a car? Why not buy this car over here? Trying to adapt the new to the old. That's the coat. The coat. You start to learn about philosophy. You just use it as a patch. So religious people who oppress women. Oh, in the last 100 years, women have been allowed to be treated not as cattle anymore. Oh, yeah, actually that's Christianity. Christianity says women should be able to vote and have bank accounts too. Since when? Since now. Patchwork. Taking it as a patch. Trying to keep the old and the new together. What we call that? Being polite, being nice. A difficulty with that is, see, tyrants, belief-based sadistic people whose idea of knowing is belief-based, and remember, belief can only do harm. So this inflicting of harm they take as their peak experience, imitating a parental figure. That's sadism. They look for excuses to do that. Oh, look, the Palestinians tried to fight back against our genocide. Well, we should do more genocide. They weren't perfect victims, says America and Israel about September 10th. Oh, look, planes flied into 2 buildings and 3 buildings magically fell down. We should murder all these Iraqi people. We should invade and take their money and power and stuff. They look for excuses to inflict their sadism as their true motivation. Clip chimping, we sometimes call it, looking for an opportunity to get someone being wrong. Now, we're saying all beliefs are wrong. Now, a good person might be like, hang on a second, I don't want to say that. Because these other people who say, like the racists that say, oh, those Muslims are all bad, and therefore we should hurt them. I don't want to hurt people, so I don't want to say religions are bad. Because the other people who say religions are bad are using it as an excuse to inflict injustice and suffering. And because I'm a good person with a good heart, I don't want to say that. That's a big difficulty. They are not the model. Yes, as we've seen over and over again, beliefs are necessarily, by definition, by demonstration, by division, and by conclusion, the root cause of all human problems. That doesn't mean we kill people. We're trying to not kill people. Because if the problem is belief, it's a problem of ignorance that you solve with education, with meeting people's material needs so they have the opportunity to reflect. So they're not competing against each other for fucking survival so billionaires can get richer. Education for everyone, not just the people who can afford it. But true education, not education that makes you a cog in the machine of human destruction. The dialectic. The thing that good people would want the most and the bad people would only see as a punishment until they're free of their ignorance. That's how we solve the problem. That's important. The people who claim to be, and if you think, well, I don't want to say religion is bad because I don't want to be a racist. You are still, if you think that, you think the racist is the fourth hypothesis, belief, model of knowing. That's not true. Just as Donald Trump's belief about justice is not the model of justice. That doesn't mean there is no justice. It means he's wrong. Hurting people because they grew up in a religious family and they had to be religious to survive. They suffered in injustice. You don't add more suffering onto people who are suffering. That's stupid. If people have beliefs, they are currently suffering from it. Yes, they're inflicting that suffering on others as well, so we don't want to give them power over others, but we don't want to hurt them further. That model of injustice is not justice. Just as religious people claim to speak for God, the hundreds of thousands or millions of different false beliefs about God that are all in conflict with each other, all seem to be about oppressing people because they're all based on belief. Just because those idiots are wrong doesn't mean there's no God or gods or hero's journey. They're just not the model. That's why we can say, as we said earlier, we can understand our opposition to mind, atheism, materialism, reductionism. Materialism, only the material world exists. Reductionism, everything's just material parts. Love is just chemicals squirting in your brain. Atheism, there is no higher divine. We could say that all of those are an activity based on our model. There's our model and activity again. Fifth hypothesis, strict dualism, is the activity based on the model. So anyone who says, I don't want to say all religions are bad, are still carrying a false model from childhood that activity is based on. Just because these idiots were wrong doesn't mean there's no divine. Just because Trump is wrong about justice doesn't mean there's no justice. Just because these fake teachers are looking for opportunities to punish students because they're fucked in their head and they still believe in punishment doesn't mean there's no teaching. Just because these fake gurus get into these scandals because of their pathologos doesn't mean there's no such thing as a true guru. Just because all of the philosophers at universities are all philodoxias, lovers of belief, doesn't mean there's no true philosophy. That's how we can understand the fifth hypothesis as an activity based on an unsuspected false model, the two of which ignorance. That's the definition of ignorance. So ignorance isn't just claiming to be the knower and doing harm, it's also those who want to leave that without having addressed it. I don't want to be a religious fascist. So there's no God. No. You've left the belief, but you're still functioning because of it. Your activity is still based on that false model you don't even know you have. So atheists are carrying a false model that they're objecting to, just as those who want to say, no, not all beliefs. We can keep some religious beliefs, just the magic underpants ones. Are trying to be nice because their model of what it means to actually question belief is some fascist or some punisher or some Nazi or some Muslim-hating MAGA chud. They're still carrying a false model that's preventing them from learning and seeing the truth or acknowledging the truth that they do see because they want to be polite. That's a big challenge for good people. I don't want to be a teacher. Many spiritual teachers have had that problem. I'm not a teacher. I don't want to be a guru, even when a guru says you are. Why? Because all of the other people in my life have been ignorant fucks claiming to be teachers, claiming to be gurus, and they're all idiots. And I don't want to be an idiot. I don't want to be a bad person. That's what makes you a guru. To be able to recognize that all of these people were ignorant and you don't want to be like them is one of the qualifications for being a true teacher or a true guru. But you have to recognize that they are not the model. That's super important. Worth saying a few times actually. So therefore, the name for someone in that category who wants to do the new, I want to do understanding, I want to solve human problems, I want to make my life better, and I want to save humanity from, or prevent Armageddon from happening to humanity. I don't want to be just unjust, I want to be just. So I'm completely embracing everything we've been learning about the Logos, but can we also keep the old? Can we allow some people to be religious and harm their children? Or harm their employees? Or murder the other people? No. But that's second, trying to unify the new and the old, trying to save the old, even though you've seen the significance of the new. So can we call them polities? Niceys? Oh, I'm being polite. Don't say anything to the Nazis. They're allowed their opinion. They're nice young men. And they want to murder a few immigrants. That's okay. Because who am I to say? Let's just keep Nazi beliefs along with some understanding too. They're nice young men. Niceys. Or polities. So that could be a name for that. And of course, the proper reaction to new truth or logos is to accept it, embrace it, and reject the old beliefs or your pathologos. So that's interesting that we can recognize these 5 stages of reaction to new truth that mirror the 5 stages of our soul's development. Just as materialism or atheism or reductionism, 5th hypothesis, the activity from the model, is a rejection of the mind and self logos, so too the fifth level of interpretation, the rejector, rejects the logos. So they're the same. Or similar, the different categories, aren't they? As the fourth hypothesis is belief, so too the fourth interpretation is offering your beliefs instead of the new. Just as the third hypothesis is some activity called the understanding of the dialectic, the art we're here to master, third rejection is some activity of trying to do some work on the new. The activity of sewing a patch into your old coat. Just as the second hypothesis is the unity of pure consciousness, or ousia, oneness, so too, second rejection is a unity, but you're trying to unify the old and the new. And just as our ultimate goal is to go through the idea of the good or the experience of the good to the good itself as our final goal, the one self or the self logos, so too, our final goal in interpretation is to reach the logos. Accept the logos and reject the pathologos. But we're also seeing a similar thing. Jesus is having trouble going to that first hypothesis because he hasn't done the work on his beliefs. So when he is being encouraged to go to the final step, the final state of enlightenment, and he's still carrying his pathologos ideas of self, you can't have them both together. So his talking about his own beliefs, we are the zealots, we are the chosen ones, our team is best team, that's because he's still carrying his beliefs. So we can see how these two fit together. Just as the first or the goal of interpretation is to reject your pathologos beliefs and accept the logos, so too, the first hypothesis, highest stage of our soul's development, also requires a rejection of the pathologos to be or unify with, or not unify it because it's not a oneness, it's a one, to recognize the self-logos of the one self. So isn't it fascinating how they're so similar? And that's the last stage of the magic pyramid. So, we've identified them all, as we've just done. We've even put names on them. You can do that yourself. My names weren't that flash. What do we get? Rejector, car salesman, patchwork coat, polites, and then the goal. Truthies. Lovers of truth, understanding. So you can think of better names. We've identified and named their kinds. And while that has been important to do, it fails to present them hierarchically. Well, we've done that. So hooray for us. And especially identify which would be the top of them all. Well, we've done that as well. Number one. We just did that just now. Hooray for us. Twice.
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
Also a good point.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
I don't think she's talking about you, Emma.
It makes sense.
We make sense. And especially identify which would be the top of them and which would be the lowest. The rejector. I just saw a solution to the riddle. There you are, says Socrates, basking in the glory of the answer and smiling away. Please share your solution before you lose it. Well, Socrates, says Jesus, it is not the kind of thing that you could lose or forget. It's not something that you are likely to forget. Is it not true that what we've been calling your Hellenic philosophy, and actually at the root of my own teachings, are primarily about the nature of self, which is to understand the sacred site, sacred source through the logos? That's a nice way of summarizing it. Our goal is to know the self. Our method is the logos. Know the self through the logos. That's it. Can fit on a bumper sticker or a fridge magnet. Yet, do we not also need the presenting away? Do we not also add the need for presenting a way to confirm what we said is true? That is true. If our work is complete, it exists without the need of interpretation, stands alone. Oh, that's what we just read. Therefore, it's a complete book. So all of our work that we've been doing here in this conversation is self-sufficient and complete. Therefore, if it's complete and self-sufficient, then if this kind of a work, this book or anything like it, has somebody trying to add interpretation, is music loud enough, I wonder? I think maybe it is. I just had to play with my music because I noticed that it was a bit quiet, but the peaks are a bit loud. So hopefully I've leveled out my background music a little bit. So if our work does not need any interpretation, then the lowest member of that tribe of interpreters would be introducing their own pathologos into a work. In other words, if the work is complete, intelligible, self-sufficient, all the things we see on the board, in the book, and the great tome, then your adding to it is unnecessary. In other words, you are carrying something with you already that makes you want to fix it, add to it, change it. What do we carry? That's false. That blinds us from the logos of an intelligible work, the pathologos. So what Jesus is seeing is a solution that is that highest stage of interpretation where you're not interpreting anymore. He said that's the reaching the, what did he say? The self through the logos? The sacred source. Yes, the self, which is the sacred source. S-O-U-R through the logos. Which fits because we're saying accept the new truth or logos or self-logos. So let's fix this one up here. To accept the new truth or the self-logos and reject the old beliefs or pathologos, and that's what Jesus saw here. We've got it on the board here as well, so let's make it the same color. So the lowest member is someone who introduces their own pathologos. So to reject the new truth or logos or self-logos and instead introduce your own pathologos is the lowest member of interpreters. That's the thing we want to watch out for the most. And ultimately we reach the end of the goal. We reach our goal when we reach the source, which is the source of everything, or the first cause, the Uranos aspect of self through the logos, which is the Chronos. So Chronos and Uranos together, it seems. If our question holds up, that is, if Uranos and Chronos are the terms to refer to the knowing of self, Uranos, from earlier in the text we just read today, and if Chronos is its activity, and one of those activities is of course giving rise to intelligence or mind. So, he figured it out. Hooray. So, has he figured it out? Socrates says, then we've finished our work. Hooray.
Everything this guy does is perfect and beautiful. And he's
Handsome? I said it.
Handsome? You're calling me handsome?
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
Well, thank you, but I don't know if I want to be called a slut.
I'm cute. Like a cutie pie.
No, I am cute, he was saying. Right, so we're finished. That pyramid, the additions to that pyramid finish our work. We've described all the kind of interpretation and named them. Well, I'm leaving that for you to do because Polites wasn't very clever. We share much together, but there is something that sets us apart. So, Jesus has already been triggered. So, he was able to step out of his being triggered enough to at least acknowledge Socrates as saying something truth. But again, he said, well, I have to look at it later. Beautifully said. But I still wonder if you believe in the gods. But then he corrected himself. So we're getting evidence that even if we're in our problem state and we miss the mark, we can correct. But do you believe in gods? Actually, what I think you'll say is that they represent powers and forces that actually exist eternally. Yes, you got it. You corrected yourself. You took yourself out of your problem state to see the logos. And he's even pulled himself out of his state enough to get that insight into our journey through interpretation is a journey from our pathologos introduction to our freedom from it to see the self-logos, or use to move through the logos to see the source of everything, the self. But without midwifery, is his problem still there? So when Socrates asks this next question, is your idea of God a kind of spiritual force that guides certain people, certain teams, team Jew, team Christian, team whoever, through history? And of course, we can recognize, yes, that's what it is. These religious people all use the idea of God as a kind of spiritual force guiding their team. God selected me, and he wants me to be in charge. And he says, give me the money for my planes, as Kirk Copeland, human skin wearer, Kenneth Copeland, the Christian evangelist, says. You don't question my money. That's the devil. The devil, you say. I say. It's a historical force. They think God is a historical force guiding their chosen people through history. Now, we've already seen that. In the book. I think really early on that the highest goal. Here we go. Page 91. So the Abrahamic gods, the big ones, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, the ones that are in control of our world currently, follow Abraham as the root of their teaching. How did the God of Abraham choose those who would be his people? They are the ones following the model of Abraham. As Abraham so feared not obeying the commands of his God that he was willing to sacrifice his first son, so too his followers obey his laws and become his people. You have to fear not doing what Pope, Imam, Rabbi, leader tells you that you're willing to murder for it. And that's good, and God likes that, and you're the chosen people. So pleased was God with Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son that he formed a clan worthy, fierce, what we called savage, fierce believers from Abraham's descendants. They were called the chosen people, and they were given the right to conquer and possess the land of others. So as we see with the Americans murdering people to possess their land, the Israelis, the Jews from Israel doing the same thing to Palestine, and all over the world we see people claiming the divine right to murder and kill because of God. Once again, belief the cause of human problems. They have been told their God will curse those who curse them and bless those who he will bless. Sorry. Curse those who curse them, and those they bless, he will bless. So you're in control. Anyone who opposes you, God will get you. And if you like someone, God will like you as well. This God became a servant. Oh, there we go. A servant of his people. So this God announced he would do unto others what others do unto them. Do to them. You hurt me, God will get you. Revenge. Vengeance. Stupid. Child, baby brain. Idiot stuff. Savage, fucking, stupid, retard stuff. Shouldn't use the word retard. Moronic.
It's sad. And I'm sad for you.
Sad for you.
Brain rot escalates.
Brain rot shit. Because other people have used that word in a derogatory sense. I mean, that's something other than mentally dysfunctional. So we don't use that word anymore. So, God announced that he would do unto others, stupid, idiot stuff. This God becomes his people's ally and pours his wrath upon his enemies. This God becomes a people's God whose highest vision is that they become rulers of mankind. That's the rub. So here we are tying at the end of the book this key feature that Jesus said at this earlier part. They will act out in not their will, but only what is consistent with Abraham's fearful legacy of his wrathful God. Conformity to divine rule, to be willing to stay within those limits, is to be a child of God. So there we have a confirmation of what we saw earlier. The definition of belief is to accept limits. The lesser of the self-logos pairs, and oppose those who want freedom. So, it imposes limits on what can be questioned. One pays a bitter price for believing truth can be reached by sanctifying the shadows in the cave of belief. So that, again, highlights what we've been talking about and seeing. It's fun. That religion sanctifies your own pathologos ignorance. It's not my family who says that the whites are the best. It's Jesus. That's what religion is. Taking your pathologos ignorance and sanctifying it. Universalizing it. It's beyond reproach now. Doing so, they celebrate blindness as if it was sight. So this is our double speak that we see in our current world. Orwellian. The Department of War, says the politicians. We have to kill for peace, says the politicians and the clergy. Celebrating blindness as if it was sight. Thus, in this way, they sacrifice any meaningful what would the religious say? We have to bring in order to save the world, we have to bring in Armageddon. The religious people are saying right now, as they try and murder enough people to start a war that will end human civilization. Pretty fucked, right? What's that called? Celebrating blindness as if it was sight. Thus, in this way, they sacrifice any meaningful exploration of the elements of theology we've now understood. We do here. Learning these forces, these principles, these self-logos terms that we have on the board. Learning how they fit within the model. Learning how the soul can use these forces in our upward development. And learning key principles like likeness. And the cognitive functions we have on the board. Instead of doing that, which is fun, and we are cool.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
And now your heads can be quite large and full with secrets.
Cool as a cuke.
And you are cool as a cuke. But instead of doing that, they sacrifice this, and instead, putting limits on the mind is to sacrifice the mind. So what the word God, the Anglo-Saxon root of the word God is sacrifice. But what they sacrifice is the whole. They sacrifice, therefore, the state of the whole, or unlimitedness, mind, and the activity of mind, if the mind is the model, understanding. So the things that we are literally here to do, oops, make it red. Know the model of mind, know the activity of mind, the art of dialectic, to use that to purify our ignorance that opposes truth, oneness, and goodness, and to go beyond that highest vision to know the self. That's literally our purpose by definition. In many, many, many ways you can prove this, as we've been doing. That's what we sacrifice. So once again, the word God, in terms of religion, not as a story or metaphor to personify these principles, means to sacrifice, and what they sacrifice is our whole life. Our purpose, what it means to be human, what we're here for, by sacrificing the mind. Putting limits on the mind is to sacrifice the mind. If this is common to the Abrahamic religions, then they are in conflict with understanding, the activity, reason, and the use of intellect and mind. They're in conflict with themselves, their purpose, mind. Go back to the triad. They're in conflict with their state of mind that they're supposed to have, their activity that we're supposed to have, and they're unable to reach the self. So the most sick in our society, we are allowing to have rulership over the many in the form of the Abrahamic religions. By definition, the reduction of God, because it plays the reduction of God to serve and function as a servant, a historical force for the chosen people, is no longer to have a God. Notice then that Mark's Jesus, different from Paul and John, hoped to force God's hand. So the story that we get about Jesus from Mark, trying to force God's hand and save him from the cross, a servant. And in doing so, his followers will become another people, another tribe of chosen people. It's all about a fucking tribe. It's caveman shit. It's from our millions of years of evolution from cavemen, from prior to reason, logos, self-reflection, ousia. It's the same old shit for millions of years. A solution that no longer applies. It's the human puzzle, or the human condition. We can solve it. We're supposed to. That's why we're here. Become another people, another tribe of chosen people. Paul's theme saved this idea by the belief in your resurrection. So in other words, in the story of Jesus, the one that the real one, well, the one that we have, it ends with God, you've abandoned me. It ends in failure. The Gospel of Mark, copied by Matthew and Luke. Rejected by that rejector kind of interpretation. Paul, we're using him as our example as well. Rejecter of the truth, lied and say, oh, he magicked from the dead. He added it. That's not a debatable thing. If you look at a decent Bible, they all have an asterisk at the bottom of that section of Mark and says everything after this was added hundreds of years later by the church. We're understanding why. Saving the ideal of belief by saying, even though he tried to force God's hand as this sick idea of God, a historical force of a chosen people as the servant of those chosen people, again, as a way of sanctifying their ignorant pathologos beliefs they haven't done their work to remove, and failing tragically, or not tragically, because a tragic hero recognizes his own tragic demise was because of his own unsuspected false beliefs he should have looked at. A pathetic hero blames God. Jesus said, God, you've abandoned me. So it's a failure story. It's a cautionary story. All of that was rejected by Paul the rejector, Paul the fuckhead, Paul the liar, Paul the son of a bitch.
You're a little bitch-ass baby.
Little bitch-ass baby, Paul.
Die mad about it, bitch.
You should die mad
Dumbass.
about it. You're a dumbass. who lied about him magicking from the dead, and so actually it was good after all, actually because magic. That episode of Simpsons where they rejected what Homer made a big speech about to save Poochie, but the animators or the producers just used a frame, and Poochie magicked his way to heaven, and then they wrote, Poochie died on the way to his home planet. Literally, it's a Poochie ending. Paul is a Poochie ending of the story. What is this but sacrificing the fullest scope of mind for membership in a clan that's protected by their god? That's the pathologos. All family think our family is the chosen ones. If I keep my racist or sexist way of being, or whatever my family does, then God will smile upon me. God will protect me because we're the chosen ones. Every family thinks that. It's a mark of the pathologos. Religion and conservative politics and capitalist oppression is just the sanctifying of that through power over others or pretending God says so too. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole game. In one sentence. That's it. That's the show. You use the idea of limit frequently, Socrates, says Jesus. Yes, now we can understand why he's saying that, because it's one of those gods. It's one of the gods. It's one of the self-logos terms. He could have picked any of these. You accept a limit to become Abrahamic, to become a religious person and opposing freedom. Sure. You also are a part and you'll want to oppose the whole. Sure. You're also different from humanity and you don't want to see yourself the same. Sure. You're also constantly in conflict or motion and you can never be at rest or peace. Sure. It's a historical God in time, not a transcendent, universal aspect of being that's out of time. Absolutely. See, we can understand the nature of belief, religion, all beliefs, especially Abrahamic ones, but all of them, and how they function in opposition to the greater, while at the same time understanding what it is they're in opposition of. The greater. Mind. What is out of time? What is free? What is at peace? What is like itself? What is the same as all minds? And what is the whole? We can understand it with these simple terms, which happen to be the building blocks of all thinking, understanding, experience, and reality. Therefore, if it's the building blocks of those things, call it the gods. Easy. You are saying, are you not, that while those who become a follower of Abraham gain an identity and power, they do so at the cost of the higher functions of the mind. You call this a necessary limit to their being. That's quite a claim. How do you intend to defend it? If you have reasons, I'd like to hear them. And we've gone through them, so we don't have to go through them again today. But so this is at the end, we're tying back this significant section. That's part of writing, by the way. He's tying back so we can sew together these parts of the text. Here where he said it's a sacrifice of the mind to become a savage, ignorant, murderous follower, blind follower of whatever leader, that makes you a chosen people, and therefore if you're one of the chosen people, God is our slave. God's highest vision is that we rule and we get to kill as many Palestinians or as many Jews or as many Muslims or as many Catholics or as many Protestants or as many women or as many slaves as we want to, because God serves us. That's the nature of human fucking ignorance and suffering. Belief, which by definition is to accept limitations on mind, oppositions to mind, understanding, reason, evidence. Opposition to the good, the true, and the one. By definition. So it's a sacrifice of mind. The word God comes from the root word sacrifice. For this historical force over a chosen people. And his highest vision is that you are the best boy ever. And you get to kill whoever and rule whatever. Savage, ignorant shit. Whereas what we are supposed to sacrifice is our ignorance. Necessarily, as we've been saying, the true definition of sacrifice, the true thing we are supposed to sacrifice on the hero's journey is our ignorance that opposes truth, oneness, and goodness, our false belief that are the cause of all human problems. That's what the hero sacrifices in mythology or theology. What we also saw is it's the same thing for interpretation. We sacrifice the truth, the logos, to introduce our pathologos as the worst category of person, the most blocked. And the highest level of interpretation, which is non-interpretation, is you sacrifice or reject your old beliefs or pathologos. That's the thing you sacrifice. That's the thing you purify. So you can reach the sacred source, which is the self, and do so through the logos. That's the game. 2 ideas of sacrifice, 1 good, 1 bad. Sacrificing mind and its functions, understanding. Chosen people. Sanctifying your personal beliefs instead of sacrificing them. Putting limits on the mind is to sacrifice the mind in conflict with understanding, reason, and the use of mind. Or I use the word in conflict with evidence and reason and evidence. I'm putting those two together. Reason and experience, or reason and confirmation. But he's saying reason and intelligence because the highest evidence or confirmation of dianoia understanding is, of course, intelligence or the mind. So, they're opposites. Belief sacrifices the mind, the intellect, reason, and understanding in order for the sanctification and loyalty, savage, barbaric, zombie-like loyalty to what is ignorant and harmful. But you get the sticker. You get to be on Team Jesus. And you get to imitate a Noah as you tell other people you're superior to them. Hey, our God lets me kill you, you little shits, you heathens, you heretics, you goyim, you non-magic underpants wearing gooners.
Goon, 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 goon.
Goon, 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 goon.
Goon, 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 goon.
Gooners.
Gooners. Whereas the thing we're supposed to sacrifice on the hero's journey is the exact opposite. We sacrifice our ignorance, our harm, our injustice to be free to pursue through the logos, understanding, reason, intellect, and mind. The nature of that model, second hypothesis, and through it to its sacred source, the self. 2 ideas of sacrifice, 1 good, 1 bad. Therefore, the whole human game comes down to the top of the pyramid. We grow up sacrificing the logos to venerate, pedestalize, sanctify our pathologos. That's the cause of all human problems. Our purpose is to sacrifice or purify the pathologos and sanctify and venerate and master the logos. See, 2 words. All human suffering and all. How those 2 words are sacrificed or venerated defines human excellence and human sadism and suffering, or justice and injustice. Justice, injustice. The dialectic is used for both. That's why it's the art we're here to master. The name for purifying our pathologos, philosophical midwifery. The use of the dialectic to purify our logos, we've been doing all stream, all episode. Therefore, pathologos and logos playing out within reaching the self through the logos and sacrificing the pathologos, or the worst kind of interpretation, rejecting the logos to introduce your pathologos. And even Jesus saw that. Hooray.
If you don't know, now you know.
And now you know.
It's not being crazy. It's called reaching a higher sense of being.
Yes, we're reaching a higher sense of being and we're not being crazy. Right?
Can I do my plugs now?
No.
I'm trying to do comedy career.
No plugs.
I have a sickness for the thickness.
But we have a sickness for the thickness.
Gooner.
If you're a gooner. All right. So there's the game. 2 ideas of sacrifice. Now, if that's the case, and we've just defined the gods as personifications of principles, forces of reality that we have to master and make use of in our hero's development, our soul development, then Socrates turning around and saying, hang on a second, your God is a spiritual force that guides certain people throughout history, calling back all that work about the horror of Abrahamic religions to blindly kill out of fear for dear leader. And of course, there are thousands of different versions, hundreds of thousands, all of them at war with each other because they're all different. How can any of them be true? Of course they can't. It confuses me how obvious it is to see how stupid belief is, but there you go. And how come we haven't, how many different Abrahamic religions are there? Oh, about 1 million. Based on who? Oh, it all seems to be, there's some idiot grew up in it and then decides that his opinions are the best. And if some idiots follow him, he gets full of himself and then he starts his own little group. Really? And that's a standard of truth? Oh, yes, it works for them. To do what? Oh, to cause horror and abuse and tragedy and suffering. Oh, is that called working? Oh, no. Then who's right? Is it 1 out of the million? Or 0 out of the million? Because beliefs are stupid. In principle. But, it might seem obvious to us because we've been doing some good work. But, now we can define specifically why that's the case. 2 ideas of sacrificing. Logos or pathologos. So, given that, and we're calling back to that fact, and we've just defined the gods accurately, Jesus said, hey, the reason why I can dismiss the logos is because you're in the wrong team. You have a different religion. You're in a different belief tradition. Socrates said, no, the difference isn't that. It's that the true nature of the gods are these forces personified. And Jesus says, that's great. I get it. Well said, Socrates. I think we're finished. Oh, and by the way, I can actually see that for the interpreters, it's a battle between pathologos and logos. So we're finished. Yeah, no, we haven't. You attacked me, well, not me. You attacked the logos and the dialectic we've been going through to insist it's our different beliefs that make us different. But no, I just said it's our different understanding of the gods. I've just defined what the true understanding of gods is. But to really address what sets us apart isn't just describing what's true, but we haven't addressed your false beliefs about God. It's one thing to say what the gods really are, but it's a different thing to address your idea of God. Now, because we want to be master dialecticians ourselves, how does Socrates go about this? No higher purpose, says Jesus, can there be to discuss what separates us. Good. Now let's discuss this. It took us 170 episodes and 230 pages to get here. I tried to take you to God, but you were blocked. You got butthurt. You weren't able to go from the second to the first. And the way you blocked it, the way you blocked your own benefit and development, was to appeal to your beliefs and to say we can never see eye to eye because of our beliefs. I just defined that that's wrong and what the gods actually are. But we haven't yet addressed your idea of God. I've said what, and that's midwifery, by the way. You can't just say, let's do midwifery. We have to demonstrate the logos first. And then when you see that you are functioning in opposition to the logos, then you can find what your pathologos are. That blocks your logos. So Socrates, therefore, has just top of the pyramid. Jesus, you've abandoned the dialectic by saying we have different beliefs in God. I've just used the logos to define what the gods really are and what theology really is. Now we have to address your pathologos. What's your false beliefs of God that prevented you from doing the dialectic properly and reaching the highest goal? Got to do both. This and then this. Always. That's a principle. And it's a disgusting and terrible conversation to be in with someone who just says, oh no, you're wrong. Why? Because pathologos? No, I'm open to reflecting on the pathologos, but first you have to demonstrate that what happened, what I'm objecting to is I shouldn't have objected to it. It was actually good and right to say this or do this with the logos. If you are able to do that and I still don't accept it, or I didn't accept it before, then we can look at my pathologos that made me oppose the logos, but not before. Very, very fundamental principle. I've been on many a shitty conversation learning this myself. It's not an I win the dialogue button. That's debate shit.
Debate dweeb.
Debate dweebs.
Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
And it's bull testicles. So, Socrates, we've gone through the dialectic, we've hit a block. Socrates provides the logos, this is what the gods really are. Jesus was able to understand it, he was able to follow it. He even saw the pathologos is, the idea of pathologos is what causes our interpretation. And now Socrates is like, now let's address your beliefs. We're not finished yet. Not simply a matter of accepting what's true, you have to purify what's false. Otherwise, you'll be blocked forever. And that aggression and abusive way of treating me that you just did, that I was able to dissolve because of my mastery of the dialectic, the next person won't. In fact, human civilization is filled with people following Jesus' problem that cannot speak back, and they are seeking Armageddon in our world because they think Jesus wants it and Jesus will come back. It's bullshit added by Paul, but those people don't have the dialectic. Let's address your problem. So if you do come back, you're able to set the record straight. No, that's a silly. Let's forget I said that. That's never going to happen. And I don't want to give any credence to this idea of Armageddon as a tool for Jesus to come back. It's complete horseshit invented by Paul and those people who followed Paul. I think it was someone in the 1800s created that idea that gained popularity to save belief. So, how does Socrates tackle Jesus' pathologos? Well, now that we've defined what the gods are, let me get to the essence of what you think gods are, which is wrong, compared to what we just defined with the logos. It's a spiritual force guides certain people through history. Now, as we've just seen, it's a callback to earlier. Yes, it's a spiritual force guiding a chosen people through history. And those chosen people are the children of Abraham, who are willing to murder their own children and other human beings if they're told to. Because, yay, slaves. And the highest idea of God is that their chosen people should rule. And they get to kill whoever they don't like. Fucking stupid, but that's what Abrahamic religions are. And if Jesus and Socrates is calling that back, your idea of God is a spiritual force guiding certain people through history, a historical God. That's the essence. So as a dialectician, he goes for the essence of the false belief. For us, calling back our reading, absolutely, we can see him very clearly because it's not our beliefs, but because it's Jesus's beliefs from childhood when he was like 4 years old and 3 years old. He didn't know anything, and his most beloved family figures said this shit to him. He doesn't even know he has it. But that's what he does as a dialectician. Your idea of God isn't what we've just defined. It's a historical force that guides certain chosen people through history. A spiritual force that guides people through history. Now, because he's getting to the root of Jesus's pathologos, we can expect him being triggered. Let's see. Jesus says, the God I speak of is a creator God of my people, necessary to overcome evil that is spawned by the evil one, Satan. So, didn't really address that thing, but he did provide some reasoning as to why he accepts this fake idea of God as a historical figure for a chosen people. And what did we just say? To do the dialectic, you have to first address it with logos. And then when someone can't accept the logos, if they can accept the logos, then they're not blocked. They're just learning. That's great. Hooray. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Win-win-win. But if they are blocked from accepting that logos, then that's an evidence of their pathologos, and then you can do the midwifery to find the origin of the beliefs. So while Socrates is targeting his pathologos idea of God, his sick false belief about God, Jesus said, well, here's my reasoning. My reasoning is, we need this idea of God because it's necessary to overcome the power of evil that is spawned by the evil one, Satan. Now, already we know it's wrong because it conflicts with the true definition of gods. So it's wrong in principle, but we still have to address his reasoning. But in doing so, anyone who believes in this idea of God as some force opposing Satan and necessary, as well as all the other things that come along with it. Human problems are caused by evil, and therefore you can't reason your way. You can't solve human problems with understanding and helping people and the dialectic. You have to just bomb those brown people and bomb those Muslims and enslave those black people and enslave the poor people. Any of that fucking disgusting horse shit can be resolved by this logos conversation, this dialogue, this dialectic that will happen. That's necessary for Jesus to help himself because you need the logos first, but also is beneficial to anyone listening. Because this idea of God, yes, a historical figure, with this reasoning, it has to exist because there's bad things that exist. And if there's bad things that exist, there has to be the devil. And if there's a devil, there has to be this God that fights the devil through history, is also tied to Armageddon. Therefore, the only way God wins and the chosen people wins is if we destroy human civilization and Jesus comes back. And then all of that bullshit in the Revelations, in the book of Revelations about the angels coming and the chosen people and all of this shit follows. In other words, in addressing the reasoning behind the sick belief Jesus has that blocked him from, that opposes the true understanding of the gods, in addressing that reasoning, we can also not just help Jesus individually, maybe put an end to the upcoming Armageddon of our human civilization. Provided enough people listen. Them's the stakes. And that's what we'll be doing next time. So, worth reviewing. Again, sewing, that's part of reading, by the way. Sewing together the pieces of the text. We referred back to this historical force. We went back and we looked at the significance of it, how it's tied to the Abrahamic religions as a historical force for a chosen people, tying it all back, but also learning the art itself. You have to do the logos before you do the pathologos. But also, we get some good rewards. We get some tasty treats. We're cookie maxing.
I love this guy.
Love this guy.
Can I do my plugs now?
No.
I'm trying to do comedy career.
No plugs. No time for plugs.
Fuck.
Yeah, I know. That is, we got the lovely treat of the root word of God is sacrifice. And what they sacrifice is the first, second, and third hypothesis. Self, mind, reason, and understanding. What we should sacrifice is fourth hypothesis, belief. And fifth hypothesis too, its activity. Opposing the logos. In other words, what we sacrifice is belief for truth and understanding, but what religions demand is a sacrifice of truth and understanding for belief. It's inverted. So you can put that on a bumper sticker. So it's something we can take away with us. And that will always be true. Whatever time you're born, whatever species you're in, whatever galaxy or dimension you're in. So it's the kind of learning that you can take with you wherever you go forever. So it's the kind of learning we're here to do. Pretty handy. But also we're learning what it means to be a dialectician. When do we say, no, this is the case? Compared to all the other times where Socrates has been yes and. Yes anding. Yes, that's also true, but this. Let's go on from this way. Still leading. No, you're in a problem state. How could we recognize the problem state? We had the tells. We saw how it functions. We saw how to recognize it. And we saw what we can do when it happens. No, that's not the case. This is the case. And what did Socrates do? Defined it. Used his understanding and logos, or followed the logos, to define it. It's not his, it's just the truth. This is what the gods do. They're representations of force. That's it. After establishing the logos, he then addressed his pathologos. The essence. It's a historical force. That may have triggered Jesus, or maybe he's just, well, that may be the case, but here is my reasoning. It may be a historical force, but it's a necessary historical force because of Satan. Now, if we can show that Satan isn't real and can't be real, it may dissolve that belief. Or it may, if it's a pathologos belief, he may not be able to accept it, which is an invitation to philosophical midwifery. And because there's only about 5 pages of the book left to go, it may end with Jesus seeing the logos but not accepting it. Which means the sequel to the book will have to write Socrates and Jesus, a midwife talk in heaven. Nonetheless, it is still worth us reasoning through this idea and the existence of Satan and evil, which justifies all sorts of horrific punishment and justifies or leads to human Armageddon, because it might be worth stopping Armageddon from happening with simple reasoning and helping humanity, helping the world. Maybe. But that's what we'll do next time. Lots of fun today. Lots of good stuff today, and a super big cliffhanger. Can we prevent the upcoming Armageddon through dialectic alone? And in doing so, not just help our species, but do what we are here to do as a soul and master the heart we're here to master, that we can take with us wherever we go. It's a good question. Find out next time. And I hope to see you then. And join the Discord. And donate and give me money if you want. And I'll see you then.